Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a nice day. Before we begin the video, please subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. Jinger Vuolo goes back to her roots. Former Counting On star and Duggar daughter Jinger Vuolo has returned to her roots. In a recent social media post, fans realized that she's revisiting her past. Keep reading to get all of the details and see how Jinger went back in time. Jinger's life has changed in many different ways over the past several years. In November 2016, not even 6 years ago, she married Jinger Vuolo. Before that, she was living with her parents in Arkansas. Today, she is living in Los Angeles, California, and has 2 young kids, Felicity, almost 4 years old, and Evangeline, almost 2 years old. Jinger Vuolo has also started dressing more fashionably and less modestly. She seems to be living a bit more lavishly, too. On Counting On, fans watched Jinger shop on Rodeo Drive and drop some major cash on a jacket. However, that doesn't mean she can't go back to her roots. She revisited her past and documented it for fans, too. Jinger Vuolo goes back in time. On social media recently, Jinger's husband, Jinger Vuolo, shared that they were going thrift shopping. He posted a picture of Jinger in a thrift store, stating that she was in her happy place. His post notes that their location was Chance Vintage, which is a thrift store near them in Los Angeles, California. In the snap, Jinger Vuolo is all smiles as she poses while being surrounded by used clothing racks. In the comments section of the post, fans are talking about how Jinger's family has always shopped at thrift stores. So, by going thrift shopping now, she's going back to her roots. One Duggar fan quoted the family and wrote, "By used save the difference." Someone else added, "Her roots." Then, they clarified, "I was referring to her love of thrifting and doing something she enjoyed before marriage." And plenty of fans are agreeing with Jeremy's caption. It looks like the thrift store is many fans' happy place. Though it looks like Jinger splurges on expensive clothing and high-end shoes these days, she still heads back to her roots sometimes. So, do you think it's interesting that Jinger Vuolo is going thrift shopping once again? Do you love seeing where she once was and where she is today? Tell us in the comments section below. And come back to TV shows Ace for more Duggar family updates. Jinger Vuolo stood at the threshold of her childhood home, a wave of nostalgia washing over her as the familiar scent of cedarwood and fresh-baked bread mingled in the crisp Arkansas air. It had been years since she'd last set foot on this land, years of growth, discovery, and stepping into a world that once felt impossibly distant from this patch of earth where she and her siblings had run barefoot through the fields, chasing fireflies under velvet skies. Life had taken her far from here. From the narrow, unpaved roads of Tontatown to bustling city streets in Los Angeles, Jinger's journey had been one of quiet rebellion, of seeking and redefining faith, family, and identity. But today, she returned, not as the girl she once was, but as a woman determined to confront the roots she had both cherished and, at times, tried to escape. The Duggar family home was much the same as she remembered. The sprawling, well-worn house that had witnessed countless birthdays, holidays, and quiet moments of shared life. The porch swing creaked in the wind, the same way it had when she was 16, confiding secrets to her older sisters under the dim glow of string lights. Jinger's mother, Michelle, emerged from the kitchen, her face lighting up with a warmth that only mothers possess. There was no need for words. Their hug was long, silent, and spoke of forgiveness, understanding, and an unspoken acknowledgement of the distance, both literal and emotional, that had grown between them. "It's good to have you home, Jinger," Michelle whispered, her voice a mixture of relief and quiet hope. Jinger smiled, her heart heavy and light all at once. "I needed to come back," she replied, her voice steady. Later that afternoon, Jinger found herself wandering through the old trails behind the house. The forest had thinned a little, but the crooked oak tree with the tire swing was still there. She remembered how she and Joanna had spent hours here, pretending to be explorers, chasing imaginary beasts and lost treasures. Each step she took seemed to uncover a memory, some tender, others bittersweet. The little garden plot where she'd learned to plant tomatoes with her father. The creek where she'd once slipped and broken her wrist. The open field where they held family picnics, a sea of gingham blankets and paper plates loaded with fried chicken and biscuits. This was home. And yet, it wasn't. Jinger was no longer the girl who dutifully wore long skirts and carefully avoided the world beyond the safe boundaries of her family's belief system. She had grown, questioned, and in doing so, discovered new parts of herself. Back inside the house, her father, Jim Bob, was seated at the old dining table. His Bible lay open in front of him, pages worn from years of study. When he looked up, his eyes were a mixture of pride and uncertainty. "I read your book," he said, gesturing to the copy of Becoming Free Indeed lying nearby. Jinger's heart pounded. She had written the book as a way to process her journey, leaving behind the teachings of Bill Gothard, unlearning the fears instilled in her, and finding a faith that was her own. It was both a love letter and a declaration of independence. "I hoped you would," she replied. There was a long pause. "I don't agree with everything," Jim Bob admitted, his voice careful. "But I'm proud of you for following what you believe is right." Tears stung her eyes. It wasn't perfect, but it was more grace than she'd expected. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered. In that moment, Jinger realized that coming home wasn't about winning arguments or proving points. It was about understanding. It was about the invisible threads that tie family together, no matter how far one strays from the pattern. On Sunday morning, Jinger returned to the small church where she'd spent so much of her youth. The old hymns were the same, the pews just as uncomfortable, the congregation as kind and curious as ever. But something had shifted. Jinger no longer viewed this place through the lens of duty and fear. Instead, she saw it as a chapter in her story, one that shaped her, for better and for worse. She sang along, not because she had to, but because some part of those words still felt true. After the service, older women embraced her, their faces lined with the years. Young girls looked up at her with wide, searching eyes. And she realized how important it was for them to see someone who had wrestled with faith, questioned authority, and come out whole. "Thank you for being brave," one young woman whispered as she hugged Jinger tightly. It was more than Jinger had expected. It was healing. That night, gathered around a crackling fire pit, Jinger and several of her siblings talked long into the night. Some of them still held tightly to the old ways, while others, like Jill, had also found new paths. There was laughter, reminiscing about ridiculous childhood antics, Joseph's failed treehouse, Jana's bossy, oldest sister, tendencies, Josh's obsession with fireworks. And there were serious conversations too, about faith, about freedom, about what it means to honor family while being true to oneself. "I used to be scared of disappointing everyone," Jinger admitted. "But I realized the greatest disappointment would be betraying who God made me to be." Joanna nodded, tossing another log onto the fire. "I get that," she said. "We